like a less fiery version of the Balrog. On a scale of Sokka to Olaf, he's definitely on the Sokka side of the scale. Right? Is that how that happens? But what happened to the deep? I don't know what to make of Stasia. We get no backstory, we get no explanation, it just looks cool. We missed out on a beautiful irony. Hi guys, welcome back to another Nerd Rants video. We found another hyperfixation. I discovered an animated children's show created by Guillermo del Toro. Those of you who do not know who that is, he directed Pan's Labyrinth, which I made a video about. I'm sure very few people know about that. His more popular work is The Book of Life, also an animated children's project. Guys, I binged, this is a 3-series, 1-movie universe. Much of the fandom denies the existence of the movie for reasons that will get explained later. But three series, one of them is basically 4 seasons long. Seasons are about 13 episodes. One is basically like a 13 episode season, 4 seasons long, one is 2, and the last one is a single season and then the movie. So naturally, I binged this entire universe in less than a month. I don't have a problem. I really don't. I promise you I don't have a problem. The 2-season show was finished in 2 days. As was the 1-season show. Along with the movie on that second day. So the first show that initiates this universe took me the longest to get through, and that was still probably less than 2 weeks. So you could feasibly get this entire thing done in like 2 weeks if you had nothing else happening in your life. But anyway, besides the point, I watched the Tales of Arcadia animated universe. I'm in love. I absolutely love it. It is the hyperfixation of probably the next few weeks. Watch it put me into TV limbo again. I absolutely adore these shows. It's they're so good. The world building and the magic that goes with it, the way that these 3 shows interconnect, despite one of them being very different, the way the characters are built up, both side characters, main characters, the relationships between them. I personally enjoy the animation style. I love it all so much. I have very few issues with this animated universe. One large one and then a few just nitpicks, really, which we will get into. So here we go. Tales of Arcadia starts with the Troll Hunter show, which is by far the best of the 3 in my opinion. Wizards, the 3rd one, is a very close second, but that's partially because it is so tied to the Troll Hunters series, as far as all of the main characters and stuff, and then 3 Below, which is the second one, is less tied to it because it's aliens versus like the Troll Hunters and the Wizards, which can be very easily ingrained into one another, and then we have aliens, which they do manage to integrate into the world fairly well. but it's still so foreign and alien. I'm sorry. From the other shows, that just the nature of the show doesn't mesh quite as seamlessly into it. It's still very well done, and I just love it. But yes, definitely Trollhunters is the best, probably because it is the most long-running of the three, and so we have more depth and connection to the different characters and the plot lines and stuff happening in that one versus the other two, which, like I said, I binged in 2 days and probably could have been 1 day, but you know, I still have a right. So anyway, Trollhunters is so good. It technically has 3 seasons. I say it has 4 basically, because the first season has 26 episodes. Within those 26 episodes, we have a big bad for the season, which has a full arc and gets killed and it ends that. And then that leads into the second half of season 1, which sparks a new big bad, and he has his whole storyline and arc, and then it ends, and then we go into the second season. So it just has the flow of basically 2 seasons that were put into one. Excuse me. So I say it basically has 4 seasons. But anyway, there's so much information in my head, we're just gonna pray I remember all the names for these characters, because there's a lot. Anyway, we follow Jim in the Trollhunter series. Jim finds a magical amulet that was made by Merlin that gives him magical armor and a magical sword, and he finds out that trolls live under his hometown. And they are facing the imminent threat of an evil troll from centuries in the past being released, and with his army of evil trolls. And so Jim's new job and his newfound destiny is to train to become the troll hunter, who fights off the goblins and the evil creatures and overall to stop this evil troll. They call them gum-gums because it's a children's show, and they imply that it means something worse when translated out of Trollish. But anyway, inevitably his overarching goal is to stop Gunmar, who is like the king of the bad trolls, and the Gum-Gums from escaping the Darklands. Anyway, so we have him building up and training in this and through the entire first season, meanwhile being tracked down and being hunted and attacked by Gunmar's son Bular, who has a very Balrog-esque design. Like, he looks like a less fiery version of the Balrog from Lord of the Rings. That's what he looks like. But the designs for the trolls are very cool. Like the Gum-Gums especially, because they're villains, they get cooler designs. Nothing against Blinky and Arg, who are the mentor characters from the good troll side. Nothing against Blinky and Arg. Arg is such a sweet character and I love him to pieces. But the Gum-Gums get cooler designs because they're evil, so they get glowy, dark, very sharp designs, and it's very cool, whereas the good trolls have the softer, more round designs and the lighter designs, just to show the duality of that, and it's very visually cool. But the Gum-Gums get the better end of the bargaining because they get cool designs. Anyway, the designs for all is very cool. Like I said, I personally enjoy the animation style. It's not the most hyper-realistic, but that's fine, and it works, and I love the way I do really enjoy the animation style. It's very fun. And anyway, so Jim is training his best friend Toby, who is kind of the comedic relief character of the show. If I were to like line up the 3 main characters in this to the three main characters in Avatar. We have an Aang, which is Jim, we have Sokka is Toby, and then eventually we have Claire, who would be the Katara of their little trio. Anyway, we have Toby. He's the comedic relief character. Not as well done as Sokka's character, but much better, more well done than Olaf. On a scale of Sokka to Olaf, he's definitely on the Sokka side of the scale. He has depth, and there is motivation and different facets to him, and his humor, for the most part, is not annoying humor. So he ends up kind of being one of my least favorite characters just because it's not done quite as well as, you know, Sokka's peak comedic relief character. So he's not done quite as well to be like the best character in the show, where he does comedic relief and serious character and real person super well. He's definitely a little more on the comedic side of it, and we don't get quite as much depth as we probably could get from him. So he's probably like not my least favorite character in the series themselves, but of like the main characters, the core characters that we were following, he is probably the lowest ranked there. Even compared to Steve. We'll get into Steve later, but Steve Palchuk, honestly, in my opinion, enjoyability wise, like 7 times out of 10 ranks higher than Toby. And that's just because of 3 Below. Anyway, yes, so we follow that, and he's fighting Bular in the part 1 of the first season, so the first season, and then eventually we end like that season or that arc with him gaining enough strength to then kill Bular. And then the second season starts, and we have probably one of my favorite Troll Hunters villains, Angerot, he's a troll who sold his soul to Baba Yaga, the Pale Lady, we find out later, Morgana, the Eldritch Queen, in order to gain magic to protect his people. But she now owns his soul, and so he has to obey her in that. And so one of the more minor enemies from the first season tracks down where he's essentially trapped, like imprisoned and kind of dead. I don't know if it counts as death or it's probably more of a hibernation than anything else, but he claims the ring that holds Angerot's soul. So now Angerot has to work for him, and they're trying to kill Jim for killing Bular and stopping Gunmar from returning. Though we find out this minor villain who's a changeling, who is a troll that can change into human form, and he can switch between human and troll. They're called impures, so there's a whole racism going on between changelings and trolls. There's so many dynamics, it's so great. But anyway, so this changeling, Strickler, now controls him. And we also find out that he has his own plans. He's trying to elevate the status of changelings because of the racism that goes on between them and pure blood trolls. So you have that whole dynamic going on, and you have all of these things happening. We have, throughout the series, I don't remember specifically what season it starts happening in, but Jim manages to start convincing Strickler to be his ally. And so that's happening. I think that begins at the end of this season, because Angerot's soul gets destroyed. Jim manages to steal the ring from Strickler, and then he, tries to get something away from Angerot as well. But Angerot finds out and attacks him and accidentally smashes the ring, which destroys his soul. And so now he's just feral because his soul is gone and he blames Jim. And so then we have the ending being him totally feral. And I think that's when Strickler starts to kind of get convinced to help them a little bit more. So that it's really cool to see his arc as well as a character. But just, it's great. And then the third season, officially the second season, but like format-wise, the third season. Honestly, I'm remembering the least from the third season. Like I'm blanking on the main villain because I'm mixing it up with the third season. And because Angerot was just insanely good. Like, he was probably the best of the Troll Hunters villains. It's really annoying to me now that I can't remember much of the third/second season. Dang, it's probably just like blending into the third season, and so I'm remembering them together. That's probably how it's happening. But anyway, from Angerot on, we're the second/third season is, so Claire, in the midst of the whole Angerot thing, she discovers what's really going on because her baby brother was switched with a changeling. Because that's how changelings work. In order to take a human form, they switch with the child, with the person at birth, and just are that person. So then we have Claire discovering that and getting sucked into this world, and so we have her kind of getting involved in this. She gets a magic shadow staff from Angerot, which she can use. But anyway, so the second season is them trying to figure out a way to get her brother back. That's what was happening. I don't think there was as much of a big bad, at least that I'm remembering. It was almost more Vendel, who's like the elder of the troll village, troll market, because he is trying to keep them from inadvertently releasing Gunmar from the Darklands, which is where the familiars for the changelings, the real children, are kept. And so that's kind of what's happening in that season, and they eventually manage to... So they destroy... Context. There's a Killahead Bridge. Is an ancient stone bridge that serves as the dormant gateway between the Darklands and the human world. They require the amulet of the Troll Hunter in order to activate it to release Gunmar. So, in the whole Bular arc, they managed to destroy Killahead Bridge. Again. The second battle for Killahead Bridge. And all the pieces are locked away in Troll Market. So, they're trying to find a way besides opening up Killahead Bridge in order to get her brother back. But they're not figuring it out. So eventually, that's season 2, right? Is that when that happens? I believe that's also when they're searching for... Gosh, it's blurring together. It's so good though. But they have to find specific stones related to Gunmar's life story that grant them the power to kill Gunmar, so that when they can get to the Darklands, they can kill Gunmar and also save Claire's brother, and basically kill two birds with one stone. That's what was mainly happening in the second season. I got there. I binged so much. In the last week. It's so much information. Anyway. So, you know, they get all the stones in order to unlock the Eclipse Blade, which allows them to hurt Gunmar. And then, dang it, there were people getting turned to stone. Does Angmar doesn't follow through all the way to them. Anyway, they get attacked. Arg is killed. And because of that, Jim decides that he doesn't want to endanger his friends, and so he goes into the Darklands by himself. That's how it works. I'm missing so many specifics in the second season, but that is the gist of what happened. Anyway, all that to say, the third season, third/fourth, however you want to number that, that's the final season of Troll Hunters. Potentially my favorite. The first half of it is wonderful, because Jim is alone in the Darklands, and Claire and Toby are trying to figure out how to get him out. Meanwhile, Jim is trying to find her brother, manages to get her brother out, but then the bridge, Killhead Bridge, by order of the Troll Council, gets destroyed before he can escape. He just manages to get Claire's brother out. And then he gets captured by Gunmar's forces, and so then he's in prison, and we have Gunmar trying to break his will so that his armor that he gets from his amulet magically retracts, whatever word you want to use, disappears. And then he can kill / potentially take control of Jim, because he has a mind control sword. I love his mind control sword, and I was slightly disappointed that Jim never got never got taken control of. I was slightly disappointed because they teased us with the possibility. The others literally steal Killhead Bridge, the remains of the pieces of Killhead Bridge, because the council tries to throw them probably into the Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth, in order to put them beyond reach of anyone. And they use the magic staff that Claire got from Angerod, because it makes shadow portals to teleport things around. They use that to steal Killhead Bridge, remake it, and go and mount a rescue mission for Jim, and they manage to get him back. But in the midst of this escape, Jim almost gets taken by the mind control blade. I was slightly disappointed at first that he wasn't. They managed, they got him out, and they got out of the Darklands, and the bridge was destroyed, and they're like, oh my gosh, we did it! And I was waiting for that ending scene where it's revealed that no, Jim's actually been as Gunmar actually took control of Jim, and now they have to figure that out. They didn't do that. It was fine. I was slightly disappointed for an episode or two, but it was fine. He took control of someone else later. So, the reveal we do get is that Gunmar actually did escape in the midst of the chaos of them getting out of the Darklands. And so then we have the final confrontation of them figuring out how to stop Gunmar and eventually having to defeat him. In the midst, they find Merlin, who is a crotchety old man who cares more about the well-being of the Earth as a whole versus the individual person, which is kind of how the value that Jim and the others have been holding on to this entire series, is the individual person, and the people they care about are kind of being held in priority over the whole of the world. And then we have Merlin come in, and he is very much concerned about the fate of the entire world versus the individual, which is, I think, where a lot of hate for Merlin's character comes in, because more often than not, we as people we care more about the people close to us and their well-being over the rest of the world. If it came down to saving the world in overall versus like the people closest to us, I don't think any one of us wouldn't be tempted to choose the people closest to us over the world as a whole. So we have, and so that's just that internal ache that we all have. And so having Merlin, who has been alive for centuries and understands the importance of protecting the entire world, not just the people closest to him, and who has been even betrayed by the people closest to him in Morgana, coming in with this very different perspective than our main characters have had throughout this entire season, and they clash in that, and they don't understand, they don't want to trust Merlin, and they're even to some extent misunderstand his motives, because there's a moment where he goes, we need to face Morgana, we need to let her get released from her prison so that I can end this for good, versus stopping Gunmar before he releases her. And they misunderstand that you just want your magic back, because if you stop Morgana, she stole your magic, so you would get it back. Which I'm sure to a degree is part of the reasoning, but I think overall his mindset is Morgana will always be a threat until I kill her. And that is his mindset going into this, in my opinion, and how I saw it. So it's just these very different perspectives of how to save the world clashing. And they're not sure how much to trust Merlin with, because he's got such a different perspective from them. They don't know what he's going to do, and they don't fully understand why he is doing it. So in the end, he ends up, he creates a potion to make Jin a human troll hybrid, with the reasoning of, like, the line is, you were chosen to be the first human troll hunter, but you were never meant to stay that way. You need to, in order to defeat Gunmar, you need to become more. And so becoming this half-troll hybrid that has the strength and the ferocity of a troll, but still holds on to the parts of him, like the heart of humanity that is Jin. And that really got him chosen in the first place. And so having that whole thing, and he does end up choosing to take on that form so that they can defeat Gunmar and stop the eternal night, which basically blocks out the sun so that trolls can rampage without limit. I never mentioned that trolls turn to stone in sunlight in this. That's a thing. So all of this happening, we have a face-off between Morgana and Claire because they're magic users, and we have Troll Jim kind of coming to terms with this decision that he has made, and it's so good. I will say, I have like 2 minor issues with the 3rd season, and it is I have one minor issue with the 3rd season, and that is that I feel like it's not long enough. Because it would have been cool to see a little bit more from the struggle that Jim has becoming this troll form of himself, because you have one episode of him being like, oh my gosh, I'm not Jim anymore, and then by the end of it, it's like, no, we love you, you're still Jim on the inside, you have all of us behind you, you don't have to do this alone. And which is, yeah, it's a great wrap up to that, but I think it would have been fun to see a little bit more of his struggle with his new troll form. And the other thing, prior to them finding Merlin, the council has a trial determining, when Gunmar's discovered that Gunmar escaped, they are determining whether Jim is to blame for this. They end up finding him guilty, and they throw him into what they call the Deep, which is just this giant chasm with some sort of mystical thing at the bottom that makes you face your worst fears. We get, the end of this whole trial episode, they drop him into the thing. He gets attacked by what looks like his trollish form, Like, we don't get a clear picture of it at all, but it's in the Eclipse armor, which his troll version is, and it looks very, like, it looks blue and trollish, like his troll form, and we see him fighting that, like, the start of the fight into that, and then the next episode he is climbing out of the chasm, and I just wanted to see a resolution to what happened in the deep. How did he escape this phantom of his fear in order to get up? It's like not even necessarily defeat it, because we see his hesitation when he becomes the troll form and he doesn't know what's happening. So having him not even necessarily discover what it is, or even showing it more clear enough for us to be able to recognize it when he does become a troll and be like, oh my gosh, that's what he fought in the deep. But having some sort of resolution to that, where we kind of see what happens and how he gets to the point where he can climb out of the chasm. That was my biggest issue with the third season, was what happened in the deep. Like, we got in the deep, it was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so cool, and then it started the next episode, and he was climbing out, and I even, like, went on the internet and looked up how many episodes were in that season, and saw how many there were, and that it was right. And I went, but what happened to the deep? And I was asking that question for the rest of the entirety of all the series. It's like, but what happened in the deep? And I prayed after, like, because we got some timey-wimey stuff in Wizards, so I wondered if we'd get some sort of explanation in that, but we didn't. So it was a little sad, and I wish there was just, like, an episode or something, where part of it is following Jim, and part of it is following the others trying to figure out what they are supposed to do now with Jim gone, and then we have Jim facing his, like, beast form in the deep, and figuring out how to escape. That probably would have alleviated my problems with that one little transition in the series. But anyway, yeah, I really like Troll Hunters. It was definitely the best of all three series. Probably just because it was a longer run, and so we got more in depth with the characters and stuff like that. But so good. Then we have Three Below. We're just going in order. Three Below. It is about Krell and Aja, who are alien royalty. General Mirando, I forget his name, stages a coup against their parents, and they flee to Earth with a royal guard soldier, whatever, named Barbatos. He talks in the third person. That's probably the most annoying part of the series, is he talks in third person. And they bring their dog, Flug, who is the comedic relief of this series. And he's series, and whatever, he just serves as a plot device most of the time. But anyway, they flee to Earth. And so they're figuring out how to blend in on Earth, and also figure out how to repair their ship so that they can go home and take back their planet from General Mirando. This one has some very dark themes happening. Like, it almost has the most defined stakes of the three shows, because first episode, there are people dying in this coup that Mirando stages, including the king and queen. The way these aliens, Acaridians, die is if their body is killed, they retreat into their life core, which is essentially their heart. But their life core can survive longer than their body. So if they get their life core into, like, this stasis regeneration pod thing, they can bring someone back. So, the Krell and Aja, the prince and princess, the king and queen in waiting, escape to Earth with the king and queen's life core. And so they're trying to repair the ship and bide their time until the king and queen have regenerated, so that they can go back to Acaridian and take back the planet. Which is just an insane start to the show. I was like, that's nuts, and I love it. Also, Krell is voiced by Diego Luna, who, if you don't know that actor by name, plays Andor, Cassian Andor, in Rogue One and the Andor series. I recognized the voice because I was in the midst of starting this, also watching the second season of Andor with my brother, which I will make a separate video on. So I immediately went, wait a second, and looked up the cast and was just baffled. Apparently, he's also the main character in the Book of Life. So like he's just buds with Guillermo del Toro, I guess. He shows up in multiple of his projects. So anyway, we have this teenage alien talking with Cassian Andor's voice the entirety of this 2-season series, and I couldn't unhear it. But anyway, they're trying to repair their ship in the first season. They managed to repair it just in time for Eternal Night from at the end of Troll Hunters to hit, because all of these shows are happening at the same time pretty much, except Wizards. Wizards technically takes place right after Three Below. But we see the main character of that show up once or twice throughout the Troll Hunter series. Anyway, so the first season of Three Below is happening simultaneously alongside the 3rd/4th season of Troll Hunters. And so we see, I love these details, we see flashes from episodes of the Troll Hunter show happening in the background of scenes that now happen in the Three Below show. And just showing that continuity and that integration, I loved it. I loved it. It was so good. Anyway, we have Aja and Krell use their Acradian tech to camouflage themselves and join the school and then searching for all these parts. They fix their ship just in time for the Eternal Night to hit, and General Mirando sends basically an evil robot that he invented in the span that they have been gone, and it makes it to Earth. They're also fighting bounty hunters throughout the first season, which is fun. Some of the bounty hunters have cool designs. But anyway, this basically indestructible robot lands, and and takes over their mothership, and they have to figure out how to destroy it and save their parents who are aboard this ship. And they manage to do that at the cost of their ship's flight capability. Like, they damaged their ship horribly, so now they're still stranded on Earth. And Bravatos, who we discover as a traitor in the first season, I feel like that could have been fleshed in like that, or the little subplot could have been fleshed out a little bit more. It would have been fun to see a little bit more of Bravatos' character and a little bit more of that and the betrayal and all the things behind that. Like the reasoning stuff was good. I just feel like it could have been fleshed out a little bit more. I don't know. Anyway, Bravatos, in an attempt to prove his loyalty, and also just because he has grown to love these children, manages to stop the ship from leaving by running into it with another ship. So the mothership is now grounded again, and Bravatos then again gets kidnapped by one of the remaining bounty hunters. End of season 1. Season 2, they're again trying to repair the mothership, which eventually ends up being impossible. They have to save Bravatos, and yeah, it's fun. And Mirando actually comes to Earth, and they discover that a basically god-level relic of their history was hidden on Earth, and whoever wields it wields the power to basically rule the universe. So Mirando comes to Earth in search of it. I will say Mirando is an amazing villain. Mirando's a wonderful villain. He's genuinely dark, and he's killing people all the time, and it's so good. So then they have to have the full final battle with that. I will say it's probably my least favorite of the series, partially because it seems more detached than the other two. Some of the characters are a little less likable. Toby takes on kind of like the main Arcadia hero role, because at the end of the Troll Hunters, Jim and Claire end up leaving Arcadia because the Troll's Heartstone gets destroyed in the midst of the whole Eternal Night situation, so they leave to help the Girls find a new one. Anyway, yeah, so Toby kind of becomes the main Arcadia hero, which is meh. We have Stuart, who is very unlikable. We also... Steve plays a bigger role. Like I said, a majority of the time Steve is more likable to me than Toby. So it wasn't awful, but we also have Steve and Aja become a thing. It's weirdly cute, but also so cringy. Like, I don't know what to make of Stasia. It's a thing. It is canonically a thing, and they're boyfriend-girlfriend across galaxies at the end of this series. It's ridiculous, but it's also kind of adorable. I don't know what to do with Stasia. It exists. I don't really ship it, but I can't deny that sometimes it's cute. It leads to a weird subplot in the movie, but that's fine. We don't talk about that subplot. Anyway, the ending is also cool and kind of bittersweet. Because now obviously they end up defeating Mirando. This is the best part. They end up defeating Mirando, but in order to do so, it requires them to sacrifice they don't really do it, but their parents, eventually through all of this that has happened through these two seasons, they managed to get their parents fully regenerated, basically bring them back from the dead. And they built this weapon, but in order to power it, they need the life core of two royals. And so they discover this, and they're going back and forth and trying to find a different way so that they don't have to sacrifice themselves with their parents. It comes down to it, they have to use this weapon, and Aja and Krell are determined to use their own life cores so that their parents can return to their planet and take it back. Obviously, their parents, just freshly regenerated, go, "No, children, that is not how that works," and end up sacrificing themselves instead. And so after everything they did to bring their parents back, they end up inevitably losing them again. And it's so good. I love it. It was a beautiful end to that entire arc. I knew it was coming. I knew they would use their parents' cores, but it was still just wonderful. Anyway, bittersweet ending. They managed to create wormholes, which is how they use that to defeat Mirando by getting their army across the universe in seconds. Anyway, so they're going back to their planet with their army, and the bittersweet ending is Aja returns to be queen, but Krell decides he wants to stay because his friends are there, and he has a life there, and so it's really bittersweet that they separate at the end, but it's so good. Okay, we're almost there, guys. Wizards. Wizards is probably the darkest of them. Like, there's a lot, I feel like there's more death in Three Below, probably, like, numbers-wise, but Wizards is darker. This is 10 episodes. This is a 10-episode season. It is so good. So, we have Dukesy, as they call him, who is one of Merlin's apprentices from the Arthurian era, who kind of wasn't necessarily the best, and he got, put down by Merlin all the time, so he eventually separates, and he spends 9 centuries trying to, become a master of magic and prove himself to Merlin. Merlin's obviously back, thanks to Jim and so there is another world-destructive threat that hits that is coming after them. This time, very magical. It is not a troll. It is not an alien general. It is straight up magic. It is the Arcane Order. Their designs, I love the designs of the Arcane Order. It's so good. Because I'm blanking on all three of their, I'm blanking on all the names except Nari. Because Nari, and then the Frost guy, who I'm blanking on his name, and then Belrock or something is the Fire one. And basically, they are the first magic wielders. They are In this lore, I believe they created the earth, in a sense, or in some way involved or responsible for that. Anyway, they kind of shaped the world with the intention of it being like this paradise where magical and non-magical creatures live in harmony. They believe the balance has been broken by humanity, and they are trying to destroy the world to remake it basically in the way they want, in wiping out humanity so that the magical creatures can live in peace. But Nari, who is an adorable little wood nymph, I love her dearly, her design is impeccable, she turns on them because she senses the life of the entire world, and she senses all the death that their attempts to remake the world are causing. And she refuses to take part in that much suffering. And so she turns to Merlin for protection, because it requires all three of them to remake, as united as one, to remake the world, to do this apocalypse, to spark this apocalypse. And oh man. Anyway, timey-wimey stuff. Because Camelot is basically a flying airship now, powered by time. It can create portals in time. So they try to flee to the past, but when they get attacked by the Arcane Order, because they bring Toby, Steve, and so to Merlin. Merlin brings them to Camelot, where we find Jim, Claire, and Blinky. Yes, taking refuge because they fought the Green Knight, who initially attacks Duxie, which sparks this. Jim is in stasis because he took a piece of metal from the Green Knight, a magical piece of metal from the Green Knight, to the heart, and so he is in stasis to keep it from reaching his heart. Anyway, they try to flee to the past when the Arcane Order attacks them. Jim, Claire, Duxie, and Steve fall through the rift, but the Heart of Avalon, which powers the time portals, gets destroyed. And so the portal closes before the others can get through as well. Jim comes out of stasis, but he's gone back in time, so the thing's not moving toward his heart anymore. Because timey-wimey stuff. Anyway, they are now in the Arthurian era, right before the first Battle of Killahead Bridge. It is a pinnacle moment of time. And naturally, they go and inadvertently screw it up. And so they're trying to figure out how to fix time and get back home without completely destroying their future. And it's cool. Steve becomes a knight. On that note, Lancelot shows up, and then we have the final battle at Killahead Bridge. They go to home right after that. But Lancelot dies in the battle for Killahead Bridge. It is not shown on screen, but it is so gruesome. So Steve gets knocked down by Bular, Gunmar's son. So Lancelot comes in for his defense, gets knocked to the ground, is holding Bular, this giant troll, and his giant sword with his little, it looks like it's broken. Like, he looks like he has a sword with the tip broken off, which is just cool. We get no backstory, we get no explanation, it just looks cool. Anyway, he is holding off with this like broken sword of his, and you can see his strength waning. And he tells Steve, carry on my name, carry on my banner, finish this for me. And then, off screen, we are looking exclusively at Bular, we just see his sword go down and hear a crunch. While Lancelot, screaming, abruptly stops. It is so gruesome, it is so good, and I love it. I love it so much. There's so much dark, it has the darkest themes, actually. I think it has the darkest themes. Like, there's some dark stuff happening in the other shows as well, but Wizards is probably the darkest one. Because people are dying. It is the middle of a magic and human magical beast, like troll / human war. It is the origins of all of the characters that we have met in Troll Hunters. Like, we get to see Arg, who really cool backstory. He is a gum that turns to the light side. And we get to see that happen. We get to see Blinky gain his courage. We get to see the origins of the first troll hunter and the making of the amulet. We get to see now an altered version of how Morgana got trapped and how she came to hate Merlin and the troll hunter. We get to see how Merlin ends up in basically magical hibernation. And it's just, oh my gosh, it's so good. I loved it. I love the timey-wimey stuff. And then we come back to the present. Jim's not in stasis anymore. We're back in the present. Now, this shard is creeping towards his heart again. And it's not just a shard, it is a magical shard. So, it ends up getting to his heart. He shoves it in to protect his friends who are getting attacked by the Arcane Order. Or excuse me, not the Arcane Order. They're getting attacked by the Green Knight. It turns him into a full troll. So he goes berserk and attacks the Green Knight. Unfortunately, because the shard came from the Green Knight can control him. It's so good. It's so good. Anyway, whew. I missed something, but this is not the point. No, actually I didn't. I don't think I did. Yeah. Anyway. The whole thing, they have to try and keep Nari away from the Arcane Order. Now they have lost Jim. He is under the control of the Green Knight and the Arcane Order. They end up re-summoning. They take Jim to get his amulet so that they can, because the amulet was made partially from Morgana's severed hand. So they use the amulet, which contains the final piece of Morgana, to save her from her prison in order to help them remake the world. Turns out the Green Knight is Arthur, resurrected and corrupted by the Arcane Order. So we have all this dynamic. We have Morgana getting a bit of a redemption arc, which wouldn't make sense in the Trollhunter series when she first appears, but having seen what happened and how history was altered in Wizards, her redemption arc makes sense, and they handle it very well. And we go through this, they have this giant battle, and it ends. Actually, Merlin dies. Merlin dies first. Merlin dies. And they actually, I think they did his whole thing well with his relationship with Dukesy, and they call it trying to give him a redemption arc. He doesn't really need a redemption arc. It's just coming to terms with his point of view and understanding that, and him learning to understand Dukesy's point of view and that kind of thing. And so we have his death, we have Dukesy dealing with it with beautiful emotion, and we have all of these things. Oh, it's so good. We have Dukesy trying to sacrifice himself in order to save his friends and hopefully stop the Arcane Order from getting what they want. Because they have the Genesis seals, which is, it raises titans. We find out later, they raise titans that go with each of these members in order to change. Yeah, anyway, I'm getting into details that are not relevant yet. So Dukesy tries to sacrifice himself, has this whole reunion with both Merlin and Morgana, and then discovers he has to go back in order to protect Nari and keep the Arcane Order, who now has the Genesis seals because of Dukesy's plan. He now needs to keep Nari away from them, and it ends with him on the run. And Claire, they kill Morgana, and Merlin dies prior to the final battle. In the final battle, Arthur, the Green Knight, dies. Morgana also dies in the midst of this. And technically speaking, Jim also dies, because they kill the Green Knight, which then cuts off his power to Jim, and the shard kills him, and he turns to stone. But then he crumbles away, and it's human Jim again. And I think it makes sense. We don't get an explanation for it, but I think it makes sense because of a whole struggle with him, and because Merlin's thing was, it will be irreversible. You changing into a half troll is irreversible. Part of you will still be human. So I feel like the magic overrode the outer human part of it, but the humanness was still inside of him, so it killed the troll, but the human survived. That's how I view it. Anyway, that's where we leave off. Then we have Rise of the Titans, which is the movie, the climax to this entire animated universe. I will say it right now, I think all but the last 10 minutes of the movie, flawless. So good. There's a subplot where Aja and Steve, like Aja comes back, Steve gives her a kiss, and she's like, no, on Arcadia, the seventh kiss makes a baby, and then Steve's pregnant, and I'm like, you are different species, so I don't know how that would, if that would work. But anyway, so there's a pregnant Steve subplot happening for the kids. So whatever, I ignore that. But it happens, I think, because the rest of the movie is really dark and it's so good. And like, they end up getting Nari. And so now they're trying to stop the Titans that the Genesis Seals raised from the Earth from joining in Arcadia in order to, and triggering the destruction of the world. It's so good. We have an Arcadian robot / Titan fight. We have a Titan v Titan fight because they managed to break the mind control spell on Nari, and so she controls her Titan to attack the Frost Titan, and it's so cool. And so there's some amazing fights, and we have Nomura, one of the other changelings, like Jim manages to change the minds of 2 changelings to become his friends. It's impressive. Anyway, so Nomura sacrifices herself, and she's a little bit more of a cost of war and just sets the stakes. And then we have Strickler. Strickler and Jim's mom are a thing. They're a wonderful thing. I honestly love them. They are a ship. But Strickler sacrifices himself to save Jim when they attack the Frost Titan. And they're attacking the Frost Titan. They're like, we don't know what to do. Jim tries to go out there with just a belt full of Arcadia explosives. He doesn't quite make it to the Frost Titan. So Strickler comes down, takes the explosives, and he has beams. Important detail. So he tries to fly it to the Frost Titan. It explodes with Strickler, and it totally blows up the Titan. And you're like, oh my gosh, yay! But it doesn't work. And the Titan reforms and keeps going. And it makes it so much better. It makes the sacrifice so much more impactful that he sacrifices himself to save Jim, the boy he was originally in this series of this animated series trying to kill. And so seeing the growth of his character and the climax of his character and him sacrificing himself in order to try and stop the end of the world, and it doesn't work. And they literally have a moment where they acknowledge it, where he's sitting there, he's like, I'm sorry, I miss him too, like, and it was for nothing. Oh, it's so good. And then we go through, we have Titan fights, so they managed to kill 2 Titans because Nari and Frostkai managed to kill each other in this fight, and they're like, oh my gosh, we did it! But they missed a piece of information, and if the Fire Titan makes it to the Heartstone from Troll Market and Troll Hunters, which is apparently a primal Heartstone, primordial, I think they called it primordial Heartstone, so it's like one of the original Heartstones. If they join together, now the Earth will be made solely in fire. And so now they have to stop the last Titan from getting to the Heartstone. And so we have this huge final battle, and it's so good. And we have a new amulet because Jim's original one got destroyed. And we have them wielding Excalibur that they got from corrupted Green Knight Arthur. And it's beautiful. I love it. And we have Toby make a beautiful sacrifice in order to finally defeat Fire Titan because they have an anti-magic ray, basically. It makes more sense in context. So he manages to fire that at Balrog, which makes her vulnerable enough for Jim to kill her. I also love Balrog's voicing because it goes from female to super intimidating male. It's so cool. But anyway. So he manages to kill Balrog, and then obviously, it's become the Titan, so it just collapses and destroys everything around it. Because of Toby having to get so close to activate the beam, he gets crushed, and we have this whole moment of him being, you taught me to be courageous, you taught me to be a hero, it's okay. And then he dies. and it's beautiful. And I actually love the way they handled his death. Like, everyone disses the movie and denies its existence. I just deny the last 10 minutes of the movie and I come up with my own ending. Okay, here we go. The canon ending. The Chronospheres, and which is like the third time machine with that name that I have ever encountered. Anyway, we have the Chronosphere, which lets you seal time. They end up breaking it open in their anger and realizing it has a time stone. So they went after this because of something Nari said before she was taken. And they use so Jim uses the Chronosphere to go back in time to save Toby, and he ends up going back to the day he found the amulet. Which we've seen a situation like this before. Merlin shows him a vision of what would have happened if he had ignored the call of the amulet. And the world ended at Gunmar's first attempt to break free. He escapes, the world ends. This is why Jim was chosen. Anyway, so he goes back in time to save Toby, and then we don't see them getting to school, but we kind of imply that he kind of avoids that area. So instead of in this vision where he actively ignores the call, we kind of just say, oh, he kind of avoids it. And then he sends Toby off. He goes off to win Claire's heart again, and sends Toby through the canals to get the amulet. And so it ends with Toby being called as the Troll Hunter. I hate it. I legitimately hate it. It retcons the entire series. It takes away the beautiful sacrifice that all of the characters throughout the entire series have made, especially in the movie, with like Strickler and even Toby himself. And nothing against Toby's character. I've said it, he's my least favorite main character, but like nothing against Toby as a character. He's still a decent character. He is not the Troll Hunter. Like, there is a reason that the amulet chose Jim. Jim was a hero before he got the amulet. Like, he found it right at the beginning, but he didn't know what it was. He didn't like put it on or anything. He just like shoved it in his bag, whatever. But without the amulet, without its power, he stands up to the bully at school for someone who could not stand up for themselves. And he is like a hero as a character. He stands up for those who are more helpless than he is. And he does that even before he discovers what the amulet is and he starts his journey as the Troll Hunter. Then we have Toby, who even in this new, like this reset time, runs away from the bully at school, is a coward. Throughout the entire first season of Troll Hunters, he is actively trying to avoid danger. He goes to train with Jim because it's cool, because of whatever else. Like, he's avoiding danger and he is not a hero. Like, the whole line is at the end with his sacrifices, you taught me to be a hero. We have that. He is not a hero prior to putting on the amulet. He is very much sidekick character. That is the way his character is built. And so having it change to be Toby as the Troll Hunter makes no sense to me. Like, Toby, wonderful character. He's a good guy, and he develops into this hero that we see at that end of Rise of the Titans. But he does not start out that way. Whereas Jim starts out as this very stand-up kind of heroic guy, and then the amulet unlocks his true potential and makes him more of what he already was. And so that's my issue with that ending. But alternate ending. Alternate ending. Thoughts in the comments. We missed out on a beautiful irony. Okay, so we play everything out the exact same way. Maybe the Chronosphere has to help them avert a different problem throughout the final battle. Like, maybe Belrock reaches the Heartstone and they are able to turn back time just enough for them to figure out a way to stop her from getting there, or something like that. If you want the Chronosphere to be involved, it's only relevant for bringing Toby back, so it doesn't even have to be in the movie, really. So we could we could just get rid of the Chronosphere altogether. But if you wanted it to be in there is a different way it could have been used. So anyway, everything plays out the same. Toby dies. Fade into an epilogue. And here comes the beautiful irony. The epilogue. We have all of the main characters figuring out how to go on with their lives without Toby, obviously. We have some sort of statue or memorial or something to all the people that were lost, the people that that sacrificed themselves throughout all of the series, but especially throughout in the battle with the Titans. We have trolls living amongst humans. We have wizards using their magic openly. We have Acaridians coming to Earth and helping scientists and whatever else develop their technology. All of a sudden, we have this paradise that the Arcane Order was striving after. This future, this harmony that they thought the humans had destroyed beyond redemption, that they had believed would never come to be with the world in the world as it was. And having this beautiful irony of all of a sudden their goal that they fought so hard, that they were trying so hard to bring about through the destruction of humanity, is suddenly made possible because within humanity. And another part of beautiful irony, in a way, they were seeking so hard to remake the Earth by destroying it. And in a sense, with this whole ending of now magic is integrated into the human world, because it would have been revealed to the entire world with the Titans coming to attack, the irony is that they did remake the world, just not the way that they thought they would. Is that not a better ending? Like, is that not 100% better? Because then we don't negate all the sacrifice that was made throughout this series. We don't create a hero that makes no sense. We don't, and having this beautiful irony of this one thing that the Arcane Order sought to create by destroying the world, they end up creating because they failed to destroy the world. Like, I thought way too hard about this. It was so good. Like, I feel like that would be such a good way to tie the whole universe up and have it end in a way that is so beautifully ironic. Like, someone storyboard this for me. I'm not the best drawer, and especially in animation styles. Like, someone draw up a storyboard for this. I need like an animator to animate this. It would be so good. I think it would be so good. Anyway, I've rambled on for far too long already. Drop your thoughts in the comments, like, please. What were your thoughts on the ending and how you would change it? If you want to defend Toby's character, feel free to. Like, I'm not against Toby's character. I just don't think he's a troll. I don't think he's made to be a troll hunter. I also don't understand how Jim, like, actively avoiding the amulet changes who it calls to. Like, because I lost ranting, I promise. So we see the vision, he actively ignores it, and he goes on with his life. So then it chooses draw. But in this one, we don't see him going, we don't see their trip to school or anything, but that kind of implies he just, like, avoids the canal and doesn't come across the amulet. Why would that make it choose Toby? Because Merlin literally says it is your destiny to be the troll hunter. You were destined to be the first human troll hunter. And the amulet never makes mistakes. So, sorry. And before he went into his magic hibernation 900 years before, he had seen a vision. He knew Jim would be a troll hunter. He knew Jim would be the first human troll hunter. So he knew all of this, and it was very much predestined. It was very much a destiny thing, like, unavoidable. And he actively ignored the call. Draw became it and became the troll hunter. And the world went to crap. So, yeah. So why, in this new time frame, unless he changed something drastic, why would it choose Toby over Jim? Because it didn't choose Jim just because he was the nearest human being, because they were not the first people to go through the canal, or past the canal, I'm sure. And Toby was there too, so clearly it had a choice, and its first choice was Jim, so why did it choose Toby? Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm done ranting. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Those are my many, many thoughts I will feel about the Tales of Arcadia series. I will gladly rant more about it with you in the comments. But those are my thoughts. Again, drop yours in the comments, discussions, alternate endings, any of that. I'll stop talking now. See you next time.